This week's exquisite irrigation and lawn care coach of the week is Brian Ochaki of the Raiders, the third and fourth grade division. Man, Brian has been such a blessing to our league this year. He volunteered to coach. He has come in and just stepped right into the role. He is professional. He is courteous. He is compassionate towards the kids. I've watched him interact with these kids week after week, and he is just so worthy of the praise that we give to our coaches because he demonstrates it week after week. Brian, great job for your efforts. You are our exquisite coach of the week. Sponsored by Exquisite. Man, if you need an irrigation company of any kind, Exquisite is great. They do commercial, they do residential, they do irrigation and lawn care. Just a great company. They've been around for a while. The guy who runs that is a member here at Lake Church too, so you know you're getting somebody good. Exquisite Irrigation and Lawn Care. Go check them out today.
Our Lionheart Children's Academy Player of the Week goes to Hudson White of the Chargers. Coach Aaron and Vernon said this about Hudson. Said that Hudson had a pick six along with multiple flag pulls on defense. He had a touchdown pass. He had several running plays resulting in positive yardage. And in the final seconds of the game, he had an incredible run down the field to score the winning touchdown. The stats made him stand out as a player, but his teamwork, respect, and leadership skills speak much to his character. And lastly, and most importantly, during the devotional in practice, Hudson is one of the first kids to answer questions. He provides feedback, and he fully grasps who is truly number one. So, Hudson, great job. You are this week's Player of the Week, sponsored by Lionheart Children's Academy. They believe that every child deserves a place where they feel safe, deeply loved, and free to grow into exactly who God made them to be. If you are looking for quality childcare that is Christ-centered, go check out Lionheart Children's Academy at lionheartkid.com. All right, welcome to episode 48 of Winning with the Home Team. I'm Katrina.
And I'm Todd.
And man, we have a special guest today, probably in Todd's eyes, the best guest we've ever had. And I will let Todd do the introductions.
Okay, well, I have no idea where this is going, but my daughter, Macie Murphree,
Nice.
is
What's
with us
up,
today.
Macie? Yay.
So actually, a lot of people don't know this. Her actual name is Mackenzie. But we have called her Macie since.
Is that on the wedding invite? Is that on the save the date? Or is it
Mackenzie?
Macie? Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. It's on my fridge.
Official.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She, so she goes by Macie, and she has a long story to tell us today that we'll break up.
Yeah. Now, we've talked about Macie a lot on this podcast.
Yeah.
Have you checked out,
I'm a long-time listener.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've mentioned, have you heard your name and
Yes.
stories that your dad has told about you?
I have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're his favorite daughter, by the way.
I will take
That's
that.
true.
I will
That's
take
true.
that.
Yeah, I have one daughter. We're proud of her though. So let's find out a little bit more about you, because you're right. I have mentioned her on several occasions. So why don't you tell them more than I can tell them? Tell us about you, why you're here, first of all, like the topic, your background in ballet and all that.
Mm-hmm. So I am here. I was a ballet dancer my whole life. I danced from 9 until about a year and a half ago, almost 2 years now. I had an amazing journey with it. I was able to travel a bunch, dance professionally. I left home at I had just turned 16.
Wow.
So I had moved to Philadelphia to go to a professional ballet school there. I did online school since I was in the 5th grade. And I had just recently called it a quits on ballet. And I had learned a lot from it. It taught me a lot about independence, being driven.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you were doing online school before it was popular.
Yeah.
You
I
did
was.
online school before COVID.
Before COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was hard, but I did start pretty young, so it was all I really knew.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we had always been, I have always been a school person. I like to get my homework done and get it done on time. And I really enjoyed online school.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
talk a little bit about your schedule with that, because that was hard for us as parents then, because we recognized that she wasn't going to be just the regular go to school kid and then
Yeah.
after school activities, right? So talk a little bit about what your routine was back then, how you did school and how much you were dancing per week.
I can remember the conversation of us deciding, are you going to get out of school? Are you going to stay in ACA? What are you going to do? And at the time, it was a little bit more for fun. My credits didn't matter. I wasn't in high school yet. So I had joined this ballet school, a day program, essentially, while I still did some competition dance. And we would go to school. We would do our homework from about 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. We'd have a little 30-minute lunch, and we'd dance from 12:30 to 4:30 and either break and go home, or for me, I continued into my competition dances after. So that jazz, lyrical, other styles for fun. And that was 5 days a week. And then we would have dance on the weekends as well. That directly translated to my schooling when I started to become a little bit more in the professional side. When I had moved away, it was a very similar schedule. We would work for about 3 hours in the morning. At that point, it was a little bit more dancing. So we would dance from anywhere between 11 a.m. to 6 p.m., excluding ongoing rehearsals for any shows that had come up.
Yeah.
That was all on top of. We would have about 30 minutes break a day, and that was 6 days a week.
Yeah.
And then Sundays, we would have rehearsals if we had an upcoming production. As far as professionally went, other than the schooling, we danced all day, every day, 6 days a week. So we would get there around 8:30. We would leave the studio around 6:30, Monday through Saturday.
Yeah.
And was that in New York?
Philly is
Okay,
where I went
okay,
to school.
okay,
I
gotcha.
had gone away every summer since I was 11.
Yeah.
Okay.
Every
Yeah.
summer since I was 11.
Yeah.
To summer intensives, and those would be a month of boarding there.
Right.
Similar to the professional schedule, you dance from 8 to 5, 6 days a week.
Yeah. Wow.
And those were, where all did you spend your summers? I can't even
Yeah,
remember.
I spent my summers. My first one, I got to go to Juilliard when I was 11 in New York City.
Wow.
That was a big deal for us.
Yeah.
And we stayed in a hotel the whole time, and that was super fun.
Mhm.
After that, I went to Salt Lake City. I spent a couple more summers in New York and then Seattle.
Mhm.
And that is, I would spend my summers in New York or Seattle for
Yeah.
about 5 or 6 years between the two.
Todd, what was the conversation like that you and Amy had in regards to the summers and going away? Like, how did you have that as, how did y'all have that conversation or make that decision?
Yeah, it was tough from several different standpoints, because financially it's hard.
Yeah.
Because at that point you're not really scholarshiping anything yet. So you're paying for the trip. And then, on top of that, like, she's 11, she's 12, like, we're going to be away from her for 2 or 4 weeks at a time. It's tough to turn your little girl over to people that you don't even really know. And especially in light of what she's going to talk about here in a second about, what that atmosphere is like.
Yeah.
And so that was hard. But what we kept going back to is we want her to chase her dreams as long as she can. And if this is something, we had many conversations. I know she and I had many conversations about just say when. Just say when. We'll stop all of this craziness. You can be a normal teenager like that. We had that conversation many times. And, like she said here, she's a very driven person. And, it does a daddy heart good to see his daughter smiling and doing things that she loves to do. And so Amy and I have always said we're gonna do everything we can. There was a lot of off-duty assignments I took and extra overtime and all that just to make sure that it happened for her. But at no point did we ever do it because we thought this is best for her. We did it because she continually said, this is what I want to do. And so, she's the second born. And so we wanted to continue to give her every opportunity that we could.
Yeah.
It's hard. And then, the hardest day probably of my life was the day that we, at least for a summer, even in New York or Seattle or Salt Lake, that there's an end to that. And then the day that we dropped her off in Philadelphia, that was hard because I knew at that time, like, she's never coming back.
How old was she at that point?
She had just turned 16.
Sorry, how old were you at that point?
Yeah, I just had my 16th
Yeah.
birthday.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I also remember there was many a tear, a lot of tough conversations of really getting down to, like, what do you want? Like, are you sure that you want this? Here's what you're giving up. You're giving up high school, prom, those little things that mean a lot to me when I was younger. Extra time at home with your family, extra time with your siblings. I took off 2 years at home that most people might have before they go to college. And that was decided within February to June of the year prior, when you get your audition results back if you got in or not. So, preparing for something like that isn't something that's natural. So it was a lot of, are you sure?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Katrina, we talk a lot in here about like select sports, baseball and that kind of thing. The hardest part for me with her specifically is waiting on those audition results to come in. And half of me wants those audition results to say, I'm sorry, she's not good enough.
So that she could stay?
Yeah. But the other half of me watched her just live and die with what those emails were going to come back and say. And, they always came back and said, you're accepted. We want you, blah, blah, blah. And that's when you just, as a father or as parents, we just kind of pull our boots up and say, okay, we'll figure out how to do this. We'll make it happen. Because again, you want to take our dreams away, but it was hard. It was hard in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
So, Macie, and I'll ask you, like, a lot of what we talk about is your identity.
Yeah.
Right. And so at what point did you start seeing yourself as, I'm just a ballerina? Like, that's who I am.
Yeah, I think pretty quickly. I think, a little bit myself, but a lot of other people's influence. Someone will watch you dance and this is what you were made for. Like, God
with
made
good
you.
intentions.
Right.
I mean, it was an affirmation, like it was an encouragement. Great news.
Yeah.
But you take that and
it stays with you for a really long time, maybe a little too long. But I think it all starts there is those positive affirmations that everyone has with amazing intentions. And you're like, okay, maybe God designed me to be a ballerina.
Yeah.
Like, that's my purpose. I think, trying to have a clear head when those audition results come back in, even at a young age, being realistic, being like, am I putting too much into this? Or am I really that talented to make it to these places? And I think being blessed to always receive yes. And I remember my first big summer that I went away to was New York City Ballet had a school. They were called the School of American Ballet. I had got accepted there when I was 12. My first year being able to audition, old enough, and they had sat us down in the New York City Ballet
that's amazing.
rooms and rehearsal space, and you're in the middle of Lincoln Square in Juilliard dorms, and they're explaining to you, you're one of 200 out of the thousands of people that auditioned. And I think from that point, I was like, oh, this is me. Like, I love the way this feels. I feel like I was meant to be here. I mean, they just told me I was. I'm only one of so many. I'm going to be a ballerina. And then that stuck with me forever.
And so
I stayed there.
With that in mind, you started developing your identity in ballet. And then talk a little bit about the industry and how difficult it is once you start getting. Because one thing that I realized early on is she would go to New York, and then she would go to Pacific West and Seattle, or Ballet West, in Salt Lake, and it was the same girls all over the country, right? And so it's such a small group of girls that you see all over the country doing these things, and yet the friendships weren't always there, right?
That's interesting.
So talk a little bit about that.
I would say that that first summer that I spent in New York, I had a really good group of dorm girls. We were all really close. We connected really well, and I'm still friends with some of them today that, maybe are still dancing, maybe aren't. It's interesting to see kind of where everyone landed. We all have there's top 5 companies maybe in the U.S. that when you make it to those summer intensives, you're like, okay, I'm in this top summer intensive, I'm going to be in that top company. And you work and train alongside each other. You see each other every summer. You say, okay, well, I was in this level last summer, and now you're in this level this summer. You keep track of that. You put that in the back of your head. We all go home to our home studios, and we're the best at each of our home studios.
Yeah.
So when you put the best of the best in a room, there's a lot of competition. In itself, I would say that ballet dancers as a whole have a lot of pride. We all want to be the best because you have to be the best to make it in such a small world. So I think naturally you're a little bit more competitive with them, and because of that, it can get a little catty.
Yeah.
And you only see each other once every year for the most part in those early stages, and there's always jealousy and some stuff that you maybe don't want to feel happy for someone selfishly. I think when I had moved away, like officially, and spent 24 hours a day with some girls at my ballet academy, it was easier to find friends that, you felt happy for. I would be lying if I said that I had a ton of friends that were only strictly better than me. You gravitate to the people that are on a similar field to you, so that, ideally you can work alongside them and grow together. But it's hard to have someone that is your friend that is miles ahead of you, or where you believe they're ahead of you, because, you go home and you do your work that you need to do for the next day, and maybe they don't have to, and already you're thinking, well, why do they not have to do that?
Right.
Is it more natural to them? Am I working incorrectly? Is there something I'm doing wrong? And, that.
So what you're talking about is comparison. You're talking a lot about comparison. And it's not necessarily just, we're all hardwired, I think, to compare. But it's not internally motivated either, because instructors, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they play a major role in that as well.
Oh, yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, I think since I started dance at a competition studio, I personally had, instructors outright say, so-and-so is my favorite, so-and-so's
to you,
my favorite, to me, to everyone, to parents, comparing us, so-and-so, she's got the legs for this. And, even if nothing negative was ever said about anyone else, you're a kid.
Yeah.
You're 8 years old, and you hear, oh, so-and-so is the best.
Yeah.
She deserves everything because she's the best. Well, I want that.
Yeah.
I think it's natural to either say, well, I'm going to get that, or I already tried. So I think you have two kinds of people that I'm going to be that person, or I'm going to let it go, on top of the fact that, you want to be in the front.
Right.
You want to experience the stage, and not everyone can be in the front and experience the stage. I think when you're in a professional environment like I was, sure, that's natural. That's your job.
Yeah.
But when you're younger, everyone should probably be able to not feel that comparison. So young, and so outright spoken.
Right.
Yeah.
But it translates forever. I would have instructors all the time be like, that is not even close to good enough
Yeah.
Let us know when you're going to try. Let us
Right.
know when you're going to work harder. And, you gave it your all and you're like, oh man, I don't know where else I can pull from.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to do. And then that's where that.
Man, it kind of goes back to what we were talking about last week with Soccer Dave. You train so hard to get to a certain level, and then you get to that level, and then there's always more.
Right.
Like there's always more to obtain. Like
Yeah.
winning is never enough, or that next level of ballet is never enough when you place your identity in that.
Right.
So key.
And you mentioned this. I know we've talked about this before, about how you don't really know what the instructors are looking for sometimes from instructor to instructor, but sometimes in ballet it's better to just not be seen. What do you mean by that?
I mean, the whole point of the art is to perform and to be seen. I think towards the end, for me personally, I was just trying to smooth sailing. Like, let me just get through this dance. Let me do the ballet with as few mistakes as possible. And, no news is good news. If they don't give me, negative feedback or feedback that I stood out in the group, then I did my part. Like I did well. And I think that that's tough. That's a transition that I wasn't expecting as I kind of progressed. I always wanted attention, whether it was good or bad. When you're younger, if you get a correction, the teacher likes you. But at a certain point, it changes from correction on technique to, hey, like, you're out of line. What are you trying to do? Get back in line, do what you need to do to be.
And that goes
core.
all the way to your appearance, right? Like, I mean, there's about your weight and things like that. And that played a role in your experience as well, right?
I would say that was the hardest part for me. Was currently in my experience in the ballet world is there's still a very little communication from directors to dancers as far as what it is that they're looking for their company. Every director, once you get to such a level, every director has a company vision that they want for their company, whether it's more classical, neoclassical, or something like that, but all the way down to, I want my girls this tall and I want the guys this tall because I, as a director, like the way that looks on stage. Yeah. But that's not communicated through the dancers, and you go, you train, and then they say you're too tall.
Yeah.
And that's just one day. My experience, I had been dancing with Orlando Ballet for 5 years. And then, slowly, by my own judgment, I see that the people they're hiring are getting shorter and shorter than the people that, were retiring or had already been dancing. And naturally, you're like, okay, we don't look the same in a line anymore.
Right.
But you're not communicating with me that, I'm starting to get too tall for where maybe you see the vision of the company going. And that battle of, am I crazy, or do they still love me and they just happen to love this girl? Doesn't matter her height. I think it would be naive to say that height wasn't involved when they don't want girls taller than guys or vice versa. And
so all of that you're saying, and this is where, you and I grew up in sports our whole lives, and we see coaching, and you have good coaches, you have bad coaches. Right. But by and large, most coaches are the same. When I would go to, whether it be summer intensives or at the Rock in Philadelphia or even Orlando, when they allow you to come in and watch for a day, it's astonishing to watch how cutthroat some of these instructors are, most of which don't even acknowledge you as a parent at all. They're not there for that. They're there for business. And it can be pretty overwhelming. And I can only imagine what a lot of these girls go through. I know Amanda Stevens was on our podcast a year or two ago, and she was talking about that. But it's incredible. So that leads me, fast forward to you're at Orlando and you're dancing professionally, and you decide, I can't do this anymore. What was the biggest factor in that burnout?
It's definitely layered. I think over time put up with as much as you can put up with, and then, everything boils down. I would say that the biggest factor for me of feeling burnout was just the ability to be able to afford this profession that I wanted. In the arts, it's not common to get paid a bunch currently. So I was blessed to be paid to do ballet, but it's not enough to make a living for myself. Right. So I would have to work multiple jobs that would be kind enough to work with my ballet schedule, because ballet is first.
Right,
That was a lot of the conversations that we had was, oh, well, you can work this job, but does it interfere with ballet? Like, is it going to pull your focus? How are you going to be well rested? That, that is your priority. You already made it this far.
Right.
We don't want to waste that on,
Yeah.
you have to work on Sundays. But unfortunately, it gets to the point where you got to work all day. So you would go in from 8 to 6 days a week. And when I was done at 6 p.m., at 6:12, I was running over to the smoothie shop across the street to finish until 10 p.m. Go home, I would rehearse my dances, make sure, watch any ballets that I would need to do, review choreography, whatever needed to happen. You wake up, do it again. And so it's 7 days a week of
That's
6
a
to
grind.
10.
Yeah.
And when you don't see the results that you want, not even results, because I was able to see results that I wanted, but you're purely exhausted, and there is absolutely no encouragement from directors or people that, I would look for that encouragement from, and fellow dancers and that kind of thing that are like, oh, well, my parents were able to help me with my apartment. So sorry about that. I'm sorry you had to work 7 days a week. Not me. I got to dance, So that was really hard too. And I think I did lose, not necessarily lose, but I wasn't able to maintain friendships like some other girls that were able to have those friendships on days when I was working. And over time, about 5 years of that, it gets pretty exhausting. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's, man, and we keep coming back to this same question, like, is it worth it? Are these kids that are playing select ball and doing all this stuff? And my perspective clearly has changed a lot, especially with her experiences and just, being there, watching her go through everything, because she's exactly right. Like, there were nights where she would call in tears. And, most of those times she would talk to Amy. And because I would just hand the phone. But no, she would be in tears, and most every time it was she needed encouragement. She needed somebody to say, "I love you." I know for a fact there were many times when I told her, "Just come home, just be done, come home." Like that's where I was. But she continued and continued. And so when I watch some of these players, these baseball players, for example, they get drafted and they go to the minor leagues, I'm certain it's a similar story.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's just tough.
Yeah. So let me ask you, Macie, on the other side of things, is it worth it? Was it worth it?
I will say, for me, yes.
Yeah.
Only because, I learned so much. I think moving away, I learned independence. I learned dedication to something. I stuck it out until I couldn't possibly stick it out anymore. And, I learned that from my parents. I think kind of piggybacking on what you said, just say the word and come home was, something you would say often. But to me, that was the last thing that I would do for you guys. I think at the end, it started to be less about me and more about my family or my legacy, in a say, of my identity as a ballerina. If I quit now, I'm a quitter. Like, that's it. That's my new legacy, is I quit. And I think that was something I really struggled with. And, my parents gave me everything to be able to do ballet. And, that took a lot weight on me.
Yeah.
They sacrificed all this for me to quit, per se. And I think kind of changing my own narrative in my own head of like, it's not quitting, I was a professional dancer.
Yeah,
I got paid
no
to do
doubt.
ballet. I got to do the ballets that I wanted to do, and I got to travel and do all the things. And that is a way of success rather than, unless you are the star of a company, that's the only success. And so I think that was something, in my opinion, that we learned together, is that there's multiple ways of success through a ballet career or a select team career. I would hesitate to put my child in dance,
Wow.
frankly,
Yeah.
but I certainly feel that I learned so much. So that is something that I continue to work with and continue to work through, because I wouldn't want my experiences to be had by others, all the negative comparisons and, how that's affected me in the long run. But I do think the pros outweighed the cons as who I am as a person.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's a big distinguishing mark, is because, she's come home, she's engaged now, and she's going to get married in March, and her best friend is a ballet dancer who's in Pittsburgh right now. She's from Montreal. Never would have had that relationship had she not gone through some of this stuff. And but she's come home and she works just as hard. Don't let her fool you. Like, she teaches Pilates now, and we never see her because she's at 3 different studios. Like, some of it I think is just personal drive. And I can see where, as we've seen many times before, sports gets to be a catalyst for showing people how to have work ethic, right? And there's something to be said for that. You just have to be careful with it. Because that's how burnout happens. And, and we've talked about it quite a bit, and it's different for every single person.
Yeah.
But in her case, I think overall it was good. There were some moments, because listen, and we talked about this last week, when you audition and you get that acceptance letter, that's a great moment. But
It's a euphoric feeling. Yeah.
yeah, but then you get there and you're like, okay, what level am I going to be
Right.
in? And then you get the level you want, and then you're like, okay, are they going to ask me to be in their company?
Yeah.
And then you make it into the company and you sign the contract, and it's, okay, well, what am I going to dance in? Right? And so there's always this next level that's just this insatiable appetite, right? And so my last question to you is, with that in mind, like, where does faith come in? How does faith play a role in satisfying you and not seeing yourself just as a ballerina?
Yeah, I would say every single conversation that I called home, it was just take a moment, pray. I think every summer or every audition that came around, it was always, your plan isn't God's plan. God's plan will be God's plan. So whether it's a yes or a no, that's God's plan. And that gave me a lot of peace. It still gives me a lot of peace. I think when I did decide to step back, it wasn't in the summer. It was a random Wednesday in the middle of the year, when I was like, that is it. Like, I've had enough.
You had total peace.
And I had a lot of peace, and I prayed a lot about it. My family prayed a lot about it for me, with me. And I think that out of everything, always taking a moment to remember, I am a little bit of a control freak. And I love control, and I love knowing exactly what's going to happen. And, I trained for this many days, so this is the part that I'm going to get because I trained for that part. And, many times that is what would happen. So I think overall, always having that reminder of, well, it's God's plan. So it doesn't matter what you trained for. What's God's plan will be God's plan. And that has really helped me. Even coming out of ballet, that, God has more for you than just ballet.
Yeah.
And there's more to life than just ballet. And he will show you that patience, and he will give you patience to know that you don't get to quit ballet and be like, okay, what's next?
Yeah.
Like, this is going to be my job for the next 20 years, but it's always changing.
And this is where it gets hard with what we struggle with on this podcast the most. Trying to help parents understand what's good and what's not, because you wrestle with, do I keep going? Because you have all these coaches or instructors telling you she's great, she's great. You need to have her here. You need to go there. You need to do this. You need to do that. And so you're like, okay, I mean, I guess we just keep going. But at the end of the day, now you're 23 years old and you're done. You're done. Like, at what point are you going to get to? You had great experiences, but I think parents need to look at it from the standpoint of what is our ultimate goal. And for our child, we watched how she handled this stuff, and she did learn responsibility, and she did learn how to be independent, and which is exactly, as a father, what I want her to be, because she's a strong woman. And that's what I want to see. I had to weigh every step of the way. Is that worth what she's going through? Right. And that's a hard balance. And that's why it's not such an easy question to answer.
And that's why, going back to last week, what we said, it just takes a relationship with God.
Yes.
Like, you have to press in
all the time.
all the time with every decision.
Yeah.
Because just like you said, I mean, your way doesn't have to be God's way. God's way will be God's way. If you, you said that you were hesitant to sign your daughter up for dance, right? Would there be any advice that you would give to a mom, let's say to a 6-year-old?
Who's really fast, by the way.
What would you say to a 6, 7, 8-year-old mom that's thinking about putting her kid in dance?
Yeah, I would say always encourage them. Start right away, telling them that they are worth so much, whether that's in dance, out of dance, just reminding them, because they might not be hearing it at dance, but maybe their best friend is. And I think that, my family was always great at telling me that, but you can't hear it enough as a little girl, especially going through those high school years. And I think dance is so great, but you really do have to be driven as a child to understand what it can do for you. To me, dance has always been so much more than the dance itself. I didn't grow up putting on a tutu and wanting to do ballet. I fell in love with how it made me feel, how I felt doing it. You always feel so beautiful doing dance, and then to come off.
I feel beautiful doing dance. Did I ever tell you that, Todd?
Yes.
I feel beautiful doing dance. I've never danced a day in my life. Well, other than my kitchen. Sorry,
Right.
cleaning the kitchen all day.
Hopefully you feel beautiful doing dance, and so
Most definitely.
you want to come off stage, and you want someone to be able to validate that and say, "Yo, you were so beautiful."
Yeah.
And so even. I think as a kid, it's easier to tell your child, but let's say they continue into high school, and already you get catty girls in high school that love the drama, and, reminding them, hey, it's not about that. It's not about what so-and-so thinks of you. It's not that so-and-so got the part and you didn't, because in 10 years, who knows?
Who cares? Yeah.
Who knows where so-and-so will be, and who knows that this part even existed? We can't even find the video of the dance.
Right.
So I think still encouraging them in that moment that, you are just as beautiful, you're strong, and this is little.
And even aside from dance, I mean, this morning we ran out of time getting ready. And in passing, Taya said, I forgot my earrings. I won't be beautiful. And I'm like, oh, no, you're beautiful with or without your earrings. It doesn't make a difference if you have your earrings in or not.
And she said it like, you can't say it enough.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't say it enough.
Yeah. So to your point.
And I will, to end on my end, I would talk specifically to dads of little girls. I have one. I have 4 boys. They're stinky. They're smelly. They fight all the time. They're boys. And I'm pretty good at raising boys. But I got one shot at this one. And it is so drastically different. And if you're a dad of both, you know what I'm saying. And you're really going to know this. Please, if you hear nothing else from me on this podcast, make sure they know their worth. Yeah. Make sure that you're telling them every day, how much they mean to you and how much they mean to God, because that will get them through things that nothing else will. And I cannot stress that enough. I'm super proud of this one.
Yep.
Super proud of this one. And
I had a good mom.
yeah, she did.
And I will
She
say
did.
to your point
Yeah.
though, it hits differently coming from a dad.
Yeah.
Like
I would agree.
yeah, totally.
100%.
Like, I mean, every morning when Taya and I go through the ACA, carpool line, I'll tell her, you're beautiful and you're smart and you're so strong
Yeah.
and you're loved by God and you're loved by your mom and dad. But it's different when Dean goes to tuck her in, it just, I don't know that it means more. It's different.
Yeah.
And they need both.
Yeah, absolutely. And you risk that because of course the boys are like, she's your favorite. And I'm like, yeah. What do
You
want me to
heard
say?
it here first.
Yeah.
Don't cut that.
Yeah.
Well, Macie, great job. Thanks for
Yeah.
coming on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great job.
Your dad's pretty awesome, and I'm glad that he's here.
He's a little bit of the best.
Yep,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So-
For sure.
Well, thanks for listening to episode 48. If you have, we would love your feedback. I don't know,
Yeah.
what you thought about this, or maybe you've had a few other successes in raising daughters that we would love to hear about. So, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Man, thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed hearing us ramble about youth sports or other strangely interesting sports topics related to families, please go and like and subscribe to the show so that you can get regular updates when a new podcast is released. We'd also love to connect with you. Head on over to our socials. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. We're under LC Sports and Recreation.
And if you're new to our podcast, go check out some of our previous episodes on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. There's some good stuff on there. And pay attention because these come out pretty quickly, weekly, as a matter of fact. And you're going to learn a lot about what we have to say with regards to our league and how to win with the home team.